and thank you for joining us on another segment of New England Veterans Liberty House, Veterans Serving Veterans. Today's guest with me is Mr. Marvin Pena, and we'll introduce him here in a couple of minutes. But before I go on with today's topic with my battle buddy here, Marvin Pena, I want to talk to you real briefly about Veterans Benefit Fair that's coming up on August 14th and 15th from dawn to dusk. We're going to be having maybe about 50 providers that are going to be showing up at this location to provide some great services for you. So if you know of a veteran, or you are a veteran, a widow of a veteran, a dependent of a veteran, anyone out there a veteran that's looking for a job or services throughout the state of Massachusetts that you can't otherwise get maybe through the VA or whatnot, this is a great place for you to be. So again, the date's going to be August 14th and 15th. We're going to have providers. We're also going to have corporate companies there that are going to be hiring veterans. We're going to have a dental van. We're going to have an eye vision van there also. So please come out and join us. With that said, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest today, Mr. Marvin Pena. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your presence. Good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. How did we meet? We met through Richard, didn't we, right?
Rich, yes.
Richard Barbado. Richard Barbado works for the Lowell Vet Center. Throw a little plug in there for Rich. Phenomenal guy. Definitely a huge warrior in my eyes. And Rich is the type of guy that he gets it. And when he talked to me about you, I was a no-brainer that I needed to introduce myself to you. So ever since that, I think we've established a pretty good rapport, and we've been doing semi-good things so far together. I think we got a long way to go, and I think we're going to do great things together. But nonetheless, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
You good? You look beat?
Oh, I'm tired.
Why don't you tell the crowd why you beat?
Well, 2 weeks ago, I did the Boston Marathon. The soldiers that rugged, put about 50, 40 pounds on.
That was for what? Specifically, what March Rec was that? What organization was that for?
Well, that was BA. That was BA. They was putting that together.
Okay. All right.
So, and actually,
that was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was through the Military Friends Foundation that they had the veterans out there with the active military people, and we were rucking together. So
Nice. How long was that?
That
what was
was
the distance?
26.2 miles.
Wow.
And then yesterday, it was the.
Did you make it without no oxygen or what's that? I seen you on Facebook with you. You were doing it when you were sick. I think.
Yeah. I had bronchitis.
Yeah.
I had bronchitis. I didn't know I had bronchitis.
What a warrior.
I've been sick for about 4 weeks, and I wasn't gonna stop. I was gonna keep on going.
Yeah, sure. It was a personal vendetta for you.
Exactly.
Let me go real quick and read a little bit about you. You were in the United States Army. You get out as a specialist, E4, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
Your primary MOS was Abrams tank gunner?
Yes.
That's a pretty cool job, man.
It is.
Secondary infantry. Your place of birth was in El Salvador?
Correct.
In 1985.
Yes.
I just threw your age out there, but that's
I know,
okay.
I know.
And you then were National Guard in 2004, Infantryman 11 Bravo.
Yes.
Yeah, and then active duty from 2007 to 2010, and then again you were a tanker for 19
kilos.
K. What's a 19 kilo?
Well,
I'm
that's
sorry.
Abrams.
I know that I finished my career in the Army part, but I don't. What's 19 K?
Well, you got 19 kilo. That's a crewman, a tank crewman, basically.
Okay.
So that's an identifier for basically everybody that works in a tank. And then you have your jobs as a loader, tank gunner, driver, and then you.
So it's 4 individuals in a tank.
Yes.
Okay. And you have your tactical commander, maybe.
Tank commander.
Tank commander,
Yes.
and then the other 3 soldiers to carry out whatever other duties
Yes.
in there. All right. So you deployed to Iraq in 2007. You were in Baghdad, Iraq.
Yes.
Yep. With what unit?
I was with First Cav.
First Cav. What was your primary job?
Well, we were attached to an infantry company, so we were almost like a little out of place because they grabbed a tanker platoon and they put us in an infantry company. Yeah, they attached us.
Weird. Yeah.
So what they did is we were like their heavy, a heavy duty guys.
Heavy armor.
Yeah. So and the thing was that in 2007 we didn't really use the tanks as much.
No.
So we brought it in from the base to the combat outpost where we actually lived. We actually took over this huge nuclear bunker that Saddam used to have in Baghdad.
Yeah.
And we took it over and we started living there.
In what area?
And that was in Baghdad. It was,
Was it?
Yeah, right in Baghdad. Right next to Sada City.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Because I served in Baghdad.
Yeah.
But we were We're down. What's that route? Not Union, Camp Union. We were in Camp Union for a bit, and then we were up and down Baghdad, all the way up to Mosul and back down. Yeah, we were up there, way up there. Listen, so your second tour, you did a second tour, you came back home, relaxed, let your hair out, relaxed grooming standards for a while, and then you took another tour in 2009 to Kirkuk, Iraq.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, that was actually a fun deployment. A little more boring than the first.
Was it?
Yeah, we didn't see much action, but our primary job was to train the Iraqi army.
Oh man, that must have been challenging though.
Well, it was challenging.
A huge language barrier first and foremost, but I mean you have translators, but nonetheless, yeah.
No, one of my job was to work with COIS guys, counterinsurgency guys, and what we did is we brought out the interpreters, and they actually taught me some language. So I actually got to learn some Arabic.
Yeah, I did too, but don't ask me now what they were, because I can't remember.
No, a lot of the cool things like that. I would actually sit down with the lieutenant and sometimes the captain
the lieutenant of the Iraqi forces?
No,
our army guys.
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually saw with generals, colonels of their army. So, we would put like our lieutenants or captains, and the higher that we would go up, the higher rank that will come with us to meet with their counterparts. So a lot of times we actually brought our colonels to meet with their higher ups,
their generals,
yes,
and so forth. Wow, that must have been good. But what was your primary mission there? And again, I'm sure that there's still there's no soldiers there in a combat role, but if there's stuff that you can't speak about because there's individuals there now because of operational security, we
definitely
won't obviously. If you hear me constantly in this show, we usually try to not disclose everything we do because there's still some of our brothers and sisters out there, even though they're not in a combat role, nonetheless they're still there and actually could be a risk to operational security. So tell us a little bit about what your primary mission was overall besides training the Iraqi forces. What you guys do after you guys done with training the Iraqi forces, what then? Or did that continue throughout the mission?
Basically, we did a bunch. It's several things over there. Part of our job was humanitarian missions. We actually went over to different towns.
I want to hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, like we went to actual towns, and we would go to the Muhtar, which is like the main person. You remember the Muhtar?
Yeah.
Muhtar is like the village elder for whoever doesn't know that.
You have to go. Before you go into a village and storm a village. You could do it regardless, but I think that as a professional courtesy, it was always reach out to the elder of that tribe.
Yes.
And I say, listen, we're going to be going into your territory. Are you good with that? And then obviously just makes things a little bit smoother.
Exactly. And then we would ask, we'll go to the Muhtar, and then we would ask them, what does your city need the most? So sometimes they would tell us, the school needs supplies, or the town, we have one store. No. Sometimes it was roads, but it depended on the budget. Yeah. We had a certain budget to help up, help them out, and it was, to stimulate the economy from the cities and small different towns. Little step by steps.
Yeah, small steps. Because one thing that we're good doing now, ever since the Vietnam War, I think, is once we destroy it, we got to fix it.
That's true. So, that's true.
I think that's the role that we've played in. And a lot of those conflicts after that is that we'll go in there and do our mission and do what we have to do. But I think prior to coming out or leaving completely, redeploying back to the States, we have to make it right. And I'm in the fence about that, because I personally think, we came from here to go and help you out. I think that some of that cash should come out of your pocket, but that's another show in itself.
Exactly.
But
plus, that's money away from the taxpayers. Yeah. That's another way to look at it. But in a way.
But overall, how'd you do? Would you guys do any repairs then when you were there? What were you part of in reconstructing?
Well, a lot of times, like I said, we would go to a city and we would be like, all right, this is the one store, the whole city, and they're not doing that well. You know what? Let's get them. And we would go to the actual store,
stock it up.
Yeah, and be like, no, what would you need? Because I know supplies come and go. They will come and go. Yeah. But like large items, like refrigerator. That's the big huge refrigerator.
Yeah, the commercial.
Yes.
Commercial type.
So and then we'd actually bring it to them.
Really?
And yes.
Did you do that often? Did you do that, for that just specific store, or did you do that across that city?
We did different cities, different little towns around, and we'll give them grants depending on what they needed as well.
I've been hearing a lot about the grants that were given out to locals and again, I have mixed feelings about it, but I think it's great where you're trying to give someone a hand up and not a handout. You know, so we're giving you this, but you need to also. It's like in any entrepreneurship, there's always a risk associated with what you do. But the higher the risk, and you hopefully that the bigger the reward, right?
Exactly.
And so, by you going out there and establishing that and being able to retrofit that store, you would think that guy now will be able to stand on his own 2 feet and do what he has to do, not only for himself or his family, but the community. You know, and one thing that people don't understand, and I keep mentioning it on the show, Marvin, is that everybody in Iraq or Afghanistan, I mean, I'm referring to the locals, are not against having us there, like a lot of people portray it. There's a lot of good people in those cities, and there's a lot of people out there that genuinely need help. You know what I mean? So in that aspect, I'm good to go with that. You know. So you did 2007, so 2009. When did you return back?
We got back just in Christmas time.
What did you do? 10-month tour?
No, we did a 12-month tour.
You did a 12-month tour?
Yes.
So you did that, Kirkuk, and then you were both with the 1st Cavalry Division and a 1/8 Cav 2nd Brigade, 1st Cavalry, Fort Hood, Texas. Did I say that right?
We was 1/8 Cav. Basically, that was our battalion. We were 2nd Brigade, and then we were 1st Cavalry Division out of Fort Hood.
Yeah. Let me ask this. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus, and I'll get into the Boston annual Wounded Vet Bike Run, inspired by Corporal Vincent Mannion.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't butcher his last name because I don't really feel like
a little bit.
A little bit. Come on, man, help me here, man.
That's what you good.
All right, just help me out, man. So we'll get a little bit about with him in the next segment, but I want to talk about you. I want to talk about you after your deployment. You redeployed back home because ever since I met you, I'm going to tell you straight up, Marvin. I think that what you're doing is honorable. You inspire me constantly. Ever since that you and I met, I've definitely been inspired to do more. So how do you find it in yourself, man, to get out there with so many of our brothers and sisters coming back and they're having a difficult time? What was your winning recipe to get back into society, reacclimate yourself, and get out there and do what you do, because you're a warrior, man?
Well, to be honest with you, man, I'll be as honest as I can be with you.
Yeah.
I came back and I got in a rut. You know, a lot of veterans, they come back and they miss the brotherhood, they miss the action, because when we're out there, we're deploying, we're doing a lot of things that we consider cool, a lot of fun stuff.
We belong.
Yes, we belong.
We belong.
Exactly.
Right
like
at that time. Yeah.
You know, as soon as you get up in the morning, you put in that uniform on.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna do something that you know.
You're gonna save lives.
Exactly.
Simple. You're gonna save lives. You're gonna make a difference in someone's life.
Exactly, and that was one of the things. You came back and you got in the civilian world, and I don't know where you were this great person who did a lot to, you're just one of everybody else.
You're now you're back in society and you're thrown. I'm not gonna say thrown at the wolves, because we're better than that, and I hold and I say it constantly in this show, is that I hold veterans at a higher standard, not because I call them 1%ers. I call veterans 1%ers, and not to confuse with 1% bikers. So let me just clarify that real quick. But we're the 1% of this country that wore the uniform, and until you wore that uniform and come back from a combat zone, when you have on a daily basis, and correct me if I'm wrong, on a daily basis that cohesiveness, that you're going to bed with this guy, that came out wrong. You're eating in the same chow hall, you were sleeping in the same area, you're getting up at the same time, you're going out there putting boots on ground and completing whatever mission that is set forth for you and your AO that type. All that stuff, man, it's tough to just shut off. So, but it seems to me that you got a good grip on it, man, and you found another outlet, and that outlet is right on your chest, wearing it proudly.
It's true.
Good for you.
And it all started from actually. I came back and I had my struggles with PTSD and just different issues.
We still do. Yeah, we still battle inner demons. It's just I think for you and I, it's a little different now.
And thankfully, I met Rich Barbado in Salem State University.
Great guy.
And he got me set up through counseling. And
did he really?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yep. I didn't know that. He talked to me briefly about you, but I've been hit in the head I think one too many times, and I forgot about it. But
yeah, so he set me up with counseling, and I was able to fartherly understand what was going on, what I was dealing with, and the issues that I was.
But you were ready though. You were ready for that counseling.
Well, I definitely was.
Yeah, a lot of our brothers and sisters are not.
Well, it took me a while. I'll be honest with you. It took me about 2 years to actually get to talk to somebody.
Same here.
And then as soon as start talking to somebody professionally, and you start getting to know what's going on. And the thing about it is, I study psychology. I'm a psychology major at Salem State University. Right. And part of the reason is like you try to understand what's going on with yourself.
With yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. And as I'm over there having counseling, and I'm thinking, and I'm talking to the counselor, and I'm telling him my story and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, the light bulb.
Bing. That
exactly.
Yeah.
Then you realize, all right, this is, and I'm telling him why I do things. I'm like, listen, this is why I'm doing this. He's like, yeah, that's exactly why.
Yeah.
And and then I'm looking at it through a psychological perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And we are our own critics, our own best critics, right?
Well, best and worst.
Yeah. And we could pick out things that we know we've done good, but we also really hard on ourselves when we know we've done things that kind of borderline, I think. But it's what you do with that knowledge then. Do you continue just isolating yourself and letting it get deeper and deeper and deeper and then just go into this abyss and not be able to get out of it? Or do you do what you and I did and say, I recognize that there's a serious issue here, and I need to do it, if nothing else, for me.
Exactly. And a couple of things that I tell you about, doing a lot of the things that I do, and I imagine there's the same thing to you. Anytime that you do anything else for a veteran in need, to me, that's like my own therapy.
It's profoundly rewarding.
And you look at it in there and you're like, I did something right. I'm over there and I'm talking to my brother, because in a way, we look at each other like brothers. And to me, we are, no matter what.
No matter what branch. And he was in the Army, so I won't hold it against him. But at the end of the day, when we're in a combat zone, we're all green, and we're not green now. We're desert colored uniforms.
Crazy.
So I think at the end of the day, we all have the same stars and stripes on our shoulder right there. And so no matter what branch of service we come from, I think once you, for me, once you get on and put boots on ground, your mentality now doesn't go from Marine Corps, Air Force, Army.
Exactly.
It just goes to another.
You're friendly. That's what you are. You're friendly.
You're friendly. Yeah, friendly foe. You know what I mean? And it goes with the Brits too. You know what I mean? How we establish that good rapport. But yeah, it's good to hear that you at least noticed that there was something difficult. And if I have a message to send to any of the younger generation veterans that are listening, is that things like where we got. Well, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm sorry. But where I didn't get here overnight. It took me a few years to get here. And yes, I still battle my inner demons, but I got here. And I took that first step, realizing that there's more out there. And if it was in the capacity that I help brothers and sisters, or in the capacity that you help brothers and sisters, nevertheless, that's a step forward. To me, it's a step forward, and it's a huge milestone that you've accomplished. So my hat's off to you, man, because coming from back-to-back deployments, pretty much based on what I hear, mine were I took a 10-year break in service, so I had some time to come up and think about it, and then call it a midlife crisis again. And I decided to enlist. But yeah, and what are you doing now? You still going to school now, right? For how much time you got left before you get your degree, and what you gonna do with that degree? Most importantly.
Well, I got one more year in my psychology degree. I graduate next year.
Good for you.
And that's my bachelor's, and then after that, I'm actually going to law school, and that's another 3 years. So. Total school it's going to be about 8 years.
It's amazing. It's amazing because I'm still trying to finish college up and get my business degree. But it's amazing as we had this opportunity when we were younger, right? To go straight from high school, go straight to college and get whatever. And I see more and more and more of our brothers and sisters as they're coming and returning back to stateside. One I see is because economics reasons, you know what I mean? Obviously, you're entitled to that post-9/11 GI Bill and all the entitlements that come with that. To, you know, there's, again, economics, because there's no jobs up there, so you know, why not? But three, I think that a lot of veterans that come back now, I think they get it. They get it. They understand.
Well, one of the things,
and they want it.
Yeah. One of the things is that after you've been in the military, I mean, you get in trouble from, you know, if you're a position of attention, and if you move your eyes, you get in trouble. So it's that discipline that you develop through the military time, and then you go to, you know, college where it's all up to you.
So. Yeah, exactly. It's all up to you. And I keep telling a lot of people up there that you're not going to have somebody in the back of your ear saying, hey, you got to turn this in, or hey, you're missing this. It's all on you. But I know a lot of successful veterans that completely have gone forward with the higher education and completed it successfully because they want it more, though. You know, they want it more. There's one thing out there that our viewers should know about you. What would that be?
You know,
I threw that one at you.
Yeah, you did that.
Right.
Well,
because I mean, I know what it is, but I would just want to see what you think. Because in my view, since I've met you, Marvin, I noticed his one quality trait about you is that you have the compassion. You have the compassion to listen to the needs of others. You know what I mean? And our famous General Douglas MacArthur had a quote about that. And so I think that's one of the things that I realized more about you is that A, you get it, you have the compassion, and you're not a procrastinator. I mean, when you say you're going to get things done, you get it done. And I admire and respect that so much. So now with that said, and I threw you a little lead, so what is the one thing that we should know about you?
Well,
you done?
We get a lot of values instilled in us, and that, you know, even out of the military, you know, you don't forget that stays in you. So like in the Army, we have this acronym: leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, service, honor, integrity. So you know, that's the things that we have. And to me, like one of the things that stuck to me the most was service. And you know, once you start getting out of the military, and even then inside, you always want to do stuff selfless. You always want to
aspire to do better.
Exactly. And when I was in there, I was a tank gunner. I was a specialist, but I was at a sergeant's position. My job was a sergeant's job. I had my soldiers underneath me.
Which just proves and shows that they had a lot of confidence in your ability, not only just in the battlefield, but off the battlefield.
So, you know, once that came out, I loved taking care of my soldiers. That, to me, that was, I would give
welfare.
I would put my time away where I'm like, all right, you know, we would go to the motor pool in Iraq, and then, you know, you're like, all right, this is what you have to do. And in order for them to get a break, I would take one of them, and then I would be out there myself working with them instead of sending them both and have some time off for myself.
Yeah, lead by example, man. It goes to show good leadership traits. You know what I mean? And I think that's here coming back too. I keep saying that there are so many veterans that are underutilized in this country because, you know, we went off, we shipped off. No matter what your background was in the military, you did they spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on us for this training, right? And I say when they come back, why not put that to good use? You know, I know that circumstances and situations are going to dictate. Because there's a lot of veterans that come back and not ready to get into the workforce, or for their own personal reasons, you know, whether it's PTSD, whether it's TBI, or whether it's loss of limb or something. But you know, I keep saying that constantly in this show. And one of the most things I like about the military is that leadership trait that they show you, because, you know, regardless of what your MOS was, there's always that leadership guidance in every MOS. And it's up to you what you do with it, I think. I think that you and I just took with it and ran with it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And there's some who do the time and get out, but...
And that's what I learned that when I was a Joe, man. I learned that when I was a private.
Yeah.
And I learned it the hard way, to be honest with you. I had one of my sergeants he asked me to do something, and I came back and I was like, I couldn't do it because of this reason. And he's like, all right, Pena, come in, let me talk to you for a second.
Yeah, that squared away pretty quick, huh?
So I'm like, okay, Sergeant, what's going on? He's like, you know what's the difference between a private and a sergeant? I'm like, what, Sergeant? He's like, hey, Joe, you can set him to do something, and he's going to tell you there's an obstacle. I have to come back, and that's why I couldn't make that happen. A sergeant will go out there, blow it up, go over it, go around it, make everything happen.
That's a good analogy.
And that's what a sergeant does.
It's a good leadership traits right there.
And, he's like, you're going to make it happen regardless. And if you don't make that happen, you're going to make something else happen as an alternative.
Because you're going to learn from that.
Exactly. So if there's no reason that you can't make something happen, you come back with your options that you already have taken care of it.
Touche.
So that's what I learned.
You and I are thinking alike on that, because I used to do that with my troops in the Marine Corps when they used to come up and say, Corporal, I can't do it. I can't go over this. I can't do that. I always gave my troops the opportunity to get out there and fix it, and fix it on your own, right? Because if I know that he can make those decisions here in garrison and be able to say, okay, let's find a different method to go over this obstacle, then I knew that when I got to the battlefield, that kid was going to be prepared and not run to my flank or run to my right side. You know what I mean? So I'm with you on that one. That's a great analogy that you use, and I hope that a lot of you viewers now, we're running out of time. We'll be back for a second segment. I want to cover you a little bit, because I wanted people to know you, the Marvin Pena, not just so much as your patriotism to this country, because in my eyes, you're a patriot. But I wanted them to get to know you as an individual, and not just as a veteran. So I want to thank you all for staying with us. We're going to come back in a second segment. But again, thank you for sharing with us a little bit of your personal life. I hope I didn't poke or dig a little bit too much, but I'm sure you'll let me know once the cameras are off. But with that said, please stay with us. We'll be right back.